This week in my web animation class, we are working on Chapter 4 in the book Foundation Game Design with HTML5 and JavaScript by Rex van der Spuy. I probably pronounced his name wrong, but I really like this book. It's an older book on HTML5 and JavaScript, but the reason I like it is that it's pure JavaScript. There's no add-ins or extra tools that he uses to make his games. He just uses JavaScript and Canvas to basically make all of the games. So it's an older book, but it's excellent. So last week, or this week, we're working on Chapter 4, a very simple game called the Forest of Lyrica, and now we're on Part 2. In Part 1, we basically set up this simple game. Now the game just involves, we have so far a paragraph tag with ID output, and that's, you can see that here, and the input tag where we enter some input here, and a button to enter that input. Now, so just these three HTML5 items, paragraph with the ID output, an input field with the ID input, and a button. So there it is, and then we're doing this in Trinket, which makes the games pretty easy to share. The students can share them with me really easily, and we can work on the code together and fix problems, and it just kind of is an easy way to work. So then in the JavaScript, this chapter 4, introduces arrays and loops. So let's take a look at it. So the game involves basically this map array. You see here variable map equals an array, and then right now the array has 9 items and there's just 9 strings here, and you can see that right here. Now what happens is if you put in an action here like I want to walk north and hit enter, you're at a deep well. So it goes from a narrow pathway to a deep well, and if I go east, it goes to another item in the array. So basically the game consists very much so of this map, which is an array with 9 items. Then let's take a look at the code really quickly here. So our current map location is 4, which is basically the 5th item in the array, starting at 0. The player's input, empty string. The game message is an empty string. We have another array here, the actions I know, which is north, east, south, and west. These are the directions we can walk or move. And then the current action is an empty string. Then he ties variables, output, input, and button. These are JavaScript variables to the document IDs and the button, respectively. So these get tied to the document IDs, and this gets tied to the HTML5 document button. So now, as we manipulate the output, input, and button variables, it will affect the HTML document in those IDs. Okay, and the button has an event listener that on click calls the function click handler, and he uses a click handler function that he creates in most of his games, and as the chapters build he adds one piece after another, which I also like about it. It's a really great book for beginners. So here comes the game so far. So the first thing that happens is we render the initial essentially game screen. And there's our function click handler, which just calls a play game function. In the play game function, we set the input value of whatever was clicked in this input field into a variable called player's input, and then player's input's sent to lowercase. The game message is emptied out. The action is emptied out, starting over, and then he uses his loop. So he loops through the actions I know array, and if there is a match with one of those actions, if you've typed in east, north, south, or west, then this will end up being true. This will resolve to true, and then the action loads with that action I know, east, north, south, or west. We log that to the console, and then we load whatever action that is with this switch statement. So if the case is north, then the map location is subtracted 3 from it. The initial map location is 4, so if I go north, then the map location minus equal 3 will change to 1. East plus equal 1, south plus equal 3. So there's our switch which if there's an action match, we'll have a match here, and then we'll be able to move by changing the map location. Now the map locations basically are organized in this fashion. So here you have the map array, item 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and we start off here. So if you go north, you're -3, you go to 1. Let's say you're over here. If you go north, you also -3, you go to 0. And then if you go west, it's -1. If east is +1. So there's a pattern to it, and then that pattern's here. Then if you don't put in northeast, south, or west, you just get the game message, I don't understand. In other words, if there's no action, right? If there's no action, if the action's empty because there was no match, then we get I don't understand that. At the end of the play game function, we simply render the game. Now, rendering the game means calling the render function. Let's take a look at the render function. The render function just takes this output field and changes the HTML in it to whatever it says in the map location. And we saw, first of all, that the array just is these different strings here, these messages, if you will. And then also we add in whatever the game message is. So on another line, there's a line break here. We'll also add in a game message if there is one. So now what we need to do is we need to add in the images, right? We want the images. Now to add in the images, you're going to need to go to your image gallery and then upload your images. And you can see I've already gone to my image library and uploaded my images, and then I selected them, and I selected all of them. You can see these, I selected those, so they're now green, and then I clicked done. Okay, and now I have these images loaded in here. So the images are uploaded to Trinket and added to the Trinket by selecting them. So now we're ready to add that image piece to the game. Now to do that, the image is going to go above here. Let me show you. Here's an example of the game. I'll click it to run. So you can see the image loads above the output message. And if I go north, the image changes along with the map location text. There's the text. Here's where the game message will go. And then there's some other things you can do, like objects you can take or drop or use. And it's just the beginnings of a navigational game where you navigate through and receive messages and the image changes. So it's just simple that way. Okay, so to add the image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an image tag. All right, so we add an image tag, and we say the source of the image equals nothing to start with. We're going to have a width equal to 300. We'll have the height equal to, I think it's 267. All right. So right now that image tag, there's our image tag, but it's not pointing to any source to start with. So if I hit click to run, we should see like an empty image, the image box, the size of where it's going to be, but it's not pointing to anything. But we're going to do that here in our game. So we're going to need a new array for our images. So you can see we already have var map, and then there's the map array with the messages. So we're going to have var images, and that's also going to be an array. And then I'm going to add in each image into the array. I'm just going to copy and paste that to save some time. And you could pause the video and type it in yourself. All right, so there are my images. So the image array, and then the first item in the images array is keep.png, well.png, and then these are the file names, right? And you can see they match in the image library the file names here that I've uploaded into the game, right? These names match. Now, all right, back here. All right, perfect. So now that we have that, we're going to go down here and we're going to say, okay, so we need to create a variable for JavaScript that ties to our image tag. So to do that, I'm just going to, what I'll do is I'll copy the button one here. Copy the button one, and then right above this var output, I'll paste it, and I'll say, no, this is not going to be a button. This will be var image. The image is going to be tied to our HTML document query selector, and look in the image tag. So now we can manipulate image in JavaScript, and it will affect whatever's in the image tag. So now all I have to do is to go down to our render function, and when we render and put in the output tag a narrow pathway, whatever our map location is, we can also say image dot source equals whatever's in the images array, and the item we want to show, or the image in the array that we want to show, is whatever our current map location is, and put a semicolon here. So image.source equals the images array, put in the current map location. We'll click to run, and there we go. Now I can go north, and the map location subtracts 3, which changes the array image that gets loaded into, and I can go west, right, and I could go south, and it changes the image each time. All right, so that's adding the image piece to the game. All we have to do was basically set up some simple HTML and JavaScript, and utilize an array to hold our images, and then put in the image source to whatever array, whatever map location we're currently on, wherever we're at in our array based on the map. All right, that's it.